there's a lot of science that's in distillation. I think people think it's a bit of moonshining, but there's a lot of science that goes into it, and not being having a science background, it's definitely a learning curve.
I love it. All right. Well, we're probably live right about now, so let's jump into it, shall we, Alicia? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to Naked Passion Podcast. We are joined tonight by the absolutely fantastic Alicia Moodley. Welcome, Alicia. How are you this evening?
I am really well, thank you.
Good news. So we've got a lot to cover. First things first, though, I'm always curious, what's the most exciting thing happening in your life right now?
Oh gosh, definitely after being in the States for 4 months, the most exciting thing is being back with my children and being able to go to restaurants again and to, bars, and just, not having to don the mask everywhere that I go. That's kind of neat. Yeah,
nice. What's your go-to restaurant? What's your favorite?
I like Asian food, so Thai all the way, man.
Nice. Coconut prawns, spring rolls.
Coconut prawns, it's a mushroom curry for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, as soon as I said, I'm like, that is so Western. Just pick the most Western thing on the Thai menu, but that's all right.
I got to Thailand.
Yeah. It's like when I go to what do you call it? Sushi Train. I've only just actually, before we get into it properly, I guess, I used to had in my head that I wouldn't like the actual seaweed roll sushi. So I used to always get the Western ones. And it was only about a month ago. So I'm like, just bloody eat it. But I adored it. So there you go. But so Alicia, I want to get into the 2 truths and a lie. So I really enjoy this one. Okay. I'm not going to, I'm wildly confident. But we'll run through it, shall we? So we've got 2 truths and a lie. When businesses ask me to work on the creative aspects of a pitch for them, heavily discounting or even working for free shows I have skin in the game for the project that has not yet been won. It also gains me new business if we do win, as I get to work on the project moving forward. So that was number 1. The second option, saying no to clients or projects that are not a fit can save me money and time in the long run. It's the second one. And number 3, people are so busy, I sometimes feel there is no room for pleasantries. But this is not true. The pleasantries just have to be respectful of what is important to them. Reading others successfully is when I get my biggest wins, and it takes not just listening, but understanding their intentions. So they are 3 very different, very interesting options. I'm going to jump straight into it. I'm going to go the lie is number 1, which is working for free. Got it. That it?
You got it. Absolutely. If the people you're working for don't want to keep you in business, they don't value you, and you're the free guy, and you're always going to be the free guy. So I've found, I've made that mistake many times, and it has never worked out. Yeah. So if they're not willing to pay now, they're not willing to pay ever.
Yeah, nice. Is there a caveat, like if someone's first starting out, can that help, or is it a case of pick your battles, or just?
If it's an equity play in the business, that's probably a different story, because they're at least showing you that they value your commitment. So I think, you probably have a conversation around whether that could work or not. But, really, I find if clients want you to do a lot of work for free, they are just either they don't know what they want and they're not prepared to pay for it, or they just really don't value your services, which is, it's not a long-term strategy that you can maintain.
Exactly that. And I for the record, agree completely. If there's no they don't value it, there's no value attached there. So, and then later on at the end of the project or the next project, if you try and, get rewarded, I guess, financially for the hard work you're doing, it's a bit hard to try and bridge that gap on the idea of value. So, okay. So I am very, very intrigued by your journey, Alicia, because, you've done a lot of stuff. You've worked for a lot of cool people. So maybe for those that don't obviously know your work and what it is you do, why don't you just give us a quick rundown on what you do today to help people?
Yeah. So, I've come from a heavy publishing background. I've worked creatively for about 20 years. But in the last few years, I've gone client direct. And that's incredibly rewarding because I like to work with clients that I see as partners. It's not like a transactional exchange of services. And I think, when your intention is to make their business successful, they see you as part of their business. And that's what really excites me. The other thing that I love to work on is projects that I have some passion for. So, I guess with my latest project, which was Snow Sand hand sanitizer, that was, although it was incredibly challenging having to go to America during a global pandemic, it was incredibly rewarding being able to be part of something that, gave back to the community. I think we donated about $40,000 worth of sanitizer to first responders.
Wow.
And to healthcare workers. And, as heartbreaking as it was really hard to get hold of alcohol at the time. And we had a lot of what was meant to be whiskey, and decided to turn that into hand sanitizer because the distillery that I work for, J&L Distillery, probably my number one client, they have a still that is built for making not just high quality vodka, but is capable of making sanitizer as well. So they were set up already, and they just pivoted and they did the right thing. So yeah. Oh well, no more whiskey.
That's a tough call, but as you said, obviously the right move. So let's stay in that for a minute, because that's such a wonderful story. And I just realized I'd never use the word wonderful, so I'm not sure what happened there. But so we spoke a little bit beforehand, but you want to catch up to speed on how that sort of pivot came about, and what role did you play, and how did that sort of play out as well?
Yeah, so I think it was, I had just got back from LA, and COVID was, it was happening. I was there with my children, and we were just hearing about it, but it hadn't got to Australia yet. And so we sort of got home and we got settled, and I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, J&L should start making hand sanitizer like everyone. Like, no, you can't get hand sanitizer, it's crazy. And then I reached out to them, and they're like, we have been contacting you for 2 weeks. Like, can you get to work? What's going on? I was like, oh my gosh, I've been traveling with the email. Oops. So my part to play in it was coming up with the branding, doing, the logo. I mean, because I had worked with them in the past, I already knew what they were, where their positioning was going to be, because I understand the company. But having to work on packaging, and I think I did about 20 different labels. And every time you change a label, you have to get it FDA approved. And there was supply chain issues with getting bottles. We ended up getting, I think, about 20,000 bottles donated from Nestle to fill, and they were water bottles at the time. So I was just putting, we had to get it out. I mean, it was desperate. We got a lot of PR, which is fantastic. I think we were one of the number one most read stories from the Denver Post for 2020, which was amazing.
Wow.
But my part to play in it was really from a branding point of view, and setting up a website, and setting up, how are they going to sell it and get it to people. They've moved to more of a B2B model rather than a retail model, because they're a manufacturer. So they have the capacity to do large volume. And, it's been an exciting and challenging job, because the hand sanitizer market has transitioned so much in the last year. It's gone from no supply to a glut of supply, and then now to a sort of educational program where we're trying to explain to people that isopropyl alcohol is incredibly toxic, so don't put that on. You have dermal absorption. So now people are like, okay, I'm not so desperate. I don't have to get whatever I can get. I now have choice. And so now we're sort of trying to put that into our marketing strategy and have a lot of content marketing. So that's really been my part to play.
What was your favorite part of that? It all sounds so I was going to say rush, and then I thought, no, yes, rush,
It
but at the
was.
same time, cleverly orchestrated as well. So, controlled chaos, it sounds like.
I mean, it was definitely rushed. And, you know, what I know, if I knew back then what I know now, probably we could have streamlined a few things. But definitely agility was the most important thing, and speed. You know, like we were trying to get sanitizer to schools to open up. So, you know, we would be doing government bids and that sort of thing. So I was helping with pitching for getting those government bids. I guess what I didn't know then that I know now is the importance of local business and supporting small local business. I think we've really had, the buying behaviours have changed completely. And now, you know, although we're shopping online, we're also much more aware that we really need to support local businesses. And that's not just in Australia, that's, you know, in the States as well. So part of our new strategy, not new, but, you know, evolving strategy is to immerse ourselves locally and really focus on that rather than kind of a scattergun approach to how we sell.
Yeah, nice. That makes sense. And so just on that, did you have local businesses sort of reaching out at the same time, or was that more of an outreach effort from you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the Boulder community is really quite special. I mean, I lived there for 5 years before I came back to Australia, but we had, I wasn't there at the time. I was in Australia. I didn't go over to the States to help them until July. Obviously, it was very hard to get out of Australia. And, you know, working for a big brand, I was allowed to do so, which I'm very thankful for. But in the beginning, we had volunteers everywhere, just working for free, packing, you know, people that couldn't go to work because, you know, their work was put off or, you know, shut down or whatever, and they wanted to do something, they wanted to give back. So galvanizing the support of the community, I guess, was the easy part. Getting it where it needed to go with the speed that it needed to be there, that was the difficult part. But fortunately, there were rule changes with the FDA, so things got a little bit looser, thank God, and we could get the product out super quick.
Yeah, wow. It struck me that every time you changed the label, you had to send it off to the FDA for approval. That did that slow things up dramatically, or was that all part and parcel of the entire project?
I mean, it did slow things down. Just registering for approval was enough, so you didn't have to. You know, normally there's a time period, but they did loosen those sort of regulations. So just registering was enough, but you still had to go through that process.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right, Alicia. Look, can you take me back to how did this all sort of kick off? Not the American thing, but your career. You've done a million and one things at such a young age already. So I guess what's sensational. So how did this all sort of start for yourself?
So, you know, I really loved fashion. You know, I guess when I was at school, going into a fashion magazine was like the number one thing that I wanted to do. And after I finished college and I obviously studied graphic design, that's what I did. I worked very hard to get into magazines, and I think I started with a magazine called Plant Line and Packaging Magazine, which is a manufacturer,
nice.
Not for house. But, you know, it was enough, and I got a couple of years experience out of college doing that. And then I moved to London. And when I was in London, I kind of just put together this mock folio of what I wanted my work to look like, you know, as if they were real projects. And I applied for a job at the Cosmopolitan show. And that was, you know, basically Cosmopolitan magazine coming to life over 4 days in London Olympia. Oh. And so did all of the marketing collateral and, you know, any of the advertorials, the outdoor signage, you know, the photography at the show. It was a 1-year project. And it turned out really well. I enjoyed it, learned a lot, and then sort of continued on and ended up working at Cosmopolitan magazine as a freelancer. And then I transitioned over to Condé Nast, which was which was interesting. You know, I think I remember getting a phone call from Condé Nast, and they were like, we don't advertise. You get a phone call, and I was like, oh, you're calling me. You know, I was all very starry-eyed, and went in there and worked in their advertorial department on Condé Nast Traveller and Brides magazine, and then we also did Harrods magazine as well. So I sort of worked. Well, I was there for 7 years, really, in London. But you know, I went from being full time to freelance, and you know, moved around, which was great. And then I came back to Australia, and that's when I started with Marie Claire magazine, and that's really been a bit of a revolving door for me. I've left and gone back to Marie Claire 3 times over my career.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of people do actually. It's just a really special place, and for me, it's a magazine that kind of scratches the itch of fashion and beauty, but then it has that substance as well. And I love working on the campaigns, and you know, they do a lot of things, obviously, for women female empowerment, which really resonates with me. So I think that's why I stayed there so long. But you know, juggling children and a career like that is tricky. You know, you can't sort of be the creative director of a magazine part-time. So I guess that's why it's been a revolving door, where I've sort of taken a break to have time with the children and what have you. And then I guess in 2012, my partner at the time got a job overseas in America. And so we all moved over there, which was great. I had a bit of a hiatus for a couple of years and spent time with the kids. And then that's how I got into working with J&L Distillery. So I couldn't work for money at the time because I didn't have the appropriate visa. And so I went into the distillery and said, hey, I want to learn how to distill. How about I do all your marketing and you teach me how to distill? It's really hard to learn how to distill. A, you have to have access to a still, and B, you need someone to teach you. And, you know, so it was a win-win. And I learned how to make whiskey and rum, and I made a pear with a bee, which was quite tasty. But, you know, I mean, I love the distillation industry. I love beverages. I love spirits. I just, you know, it's a wonderful sort of space and industry to work in. So then when I came back to Australia, gosh, that was, when did I come back? 2016, I think. I went back to Marie Claire again. That was really exciting. They had changed so much in the 5 years that I was away. It was like a whole new job, really. They were online now, and you know, there was a lot more skill sets needed for the role, which I had been doing, you know, overseas for J&L. So it was a great fit, and I was there for a couple of years, and I left in 2019, and started Junior Massive because I wanted to be more client direct.
Talk to me about Junior Massive, because this is huge. I love the idea of, you know, businesses starting businesses. And obviously it ties in with your passion. I do want to come back to the idea of women empowerment as well. Yeah. But let's talk about Junior Massive first of all.
So yeah, Junior Massive, I mean, I guess the first year that I left Junior Massive, there was a lot of just figuring out the strategy and you know, what did that look like? How was I going to get clients? You know, and what sort of clients did I want to get? So the first year was working a lot still, I guess, for collaborating with other agencies, which was great because, you know, you need to pay the bills. But and then, you know, COVID kind of hit. Yeah. And a lot of the projects that I've spent the first year kind of getting up and running, you know, because there's long time frames to these things. You know, you don't start talking to someone about a project and all of a sudden they hit the go button. So I had a lot of things lined up for 2020 that just died. You know, everyone was scrambling. And I guess Junior Massive's 2 years have been challenging with that, but also exciting. And I guess that's why I was so thankful that I had such a great relationship with J&L Distillery, and having them pivot to doing hand sanitizer really kind of saved my bacon in 2020 as far as getting enough work and, fulfilling me.
Yeah, nice. It's funny how the universe sort of protects you when you're following your passions and your true path, isn't it? But
yeah. I mean, it's great to be back in Australia, and I'm definitely on the hunt for new clients and more work. But I'm still very much working with J&L, but it's a constant battle's the wrong word. It sounds like it's hard, but you've got to keep chipping away at that pipeline. You've got to have your long-term projects and then short-term projects, and so it's a juggling act.
Have you got any mentors at the moment, Alicia, that you sort of lean on?
Mentors at the moment, really my mentors, I suppose, are the clients that I really work with. I rely on them heavily, and I suppose also Sally Brownville. She's an agent who helps me get new work and new clients. She's been great, just helping me kind of, as a creative, it's hard to sell yourself. Sometimes you get caught in the weeds of what you're doing and what you want, and it takes an outsider to kind of go, no, you've got all the pieces to the puzzle, you just haven't quite put it together correctly.
Yeah.
Great. So I think Sally Brownville has been instrumental in helping me figure out any of those issues. But definitely Seth Johnson from J&L has been a big part of who I rely on. He's not only incredibly talented and intelligent, he's the good yin to my yang, as far as I can be quite frenetic and, I work at warp speed, whereas he's very slow and patient, very intentional. So
nice.
I think that's why we work together so well.
That makes sense. I won't say that actually. I was going to say I haven't found my yang to my yin, but I have my wife. Maybe in my work relationship I haven't yet. But professionally,
yeah.
Exactly.
Friends, that's another story.
Yeah, she hasn't watched the show. We're fine. But talk to me about. I want to go back to the idea and movement, really, of I guess women empowerment and just causes has been. Oh, goodness. A lot of really social movements across the last half a decade. I think that we haven't really seen that before. The internet's obviously played a massive role in that, just as far as awareness and all that sort of stuff. So how have you found that in your life and business? Because it sounds like, shouldn't assume, but it sounds like it's been a large part of your life the last few years as well.
Yeah, definitely. It really shocks me when I see people. Domestic violence is definitely something that I just am an advocate for victims of domestic violence, and it has such a profound impact. And I think COVID really was a frightening time for anyone going through that. I mean, we were all locked in our houses, and when your home is the least safe place for you to be and you can't leave it, that's mortifying to me. And when I look at Twitter and things like that, and I see victim shaming and that sort of thing, and you see it from women as well, which is really shocking. This onus that somehow if a woman has too many drinks, she was asking for it. Flip the script. If a man is inebriated, is that suddenly give the right to somebody else to abuse him? No. But well, then why women? So it really upsets me that we haven't kind of got to a place where there is a fair and reasonable assumption that's just never okay. I think Australia's got a long way to go in that sense. I think, there's still a lot of toxic misogyny, both, in the business world. Unfortunately, I think politically we have a lot of that as well. That's a whole nother podcast.
That'll be episode 2.
So, yeah, female empowerment is definitely something that I'm very passionate about. I've got two boys that I'm raising, and raising men that are advocates of women and respectful to women in the way that they should be is definitely something that's my number one parenting goal. So I have to lead by example, and that's definitely something I believe in.
And it's huge. And to your point, we're really just in the infant sort of stages of it. The fact that people are having conversations like this on public platforms is a huge step forward. But I believe some of the conversations I've had with people, the mistakes made where they're like, oh, it's in hand, it's being addressed. It's not. It's just at the very, very start. But some positive steps, which should be applauded, but a long, long, long way to go. So yeah, watch your space.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about yourself, obviously, Alicia. So there's a few questions we want to sort of get through. What do you feel what have you chalked up as your biggest win so far?
Oh my gosh. I would say just not losing faith and having resilience. I mean, I think, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of courage to work for yourself. It's tough out there. Sales is tough, and sales doesn't come easy to me to sell myself, and that's what I have to do on a daily basis. And I dislike it immensely. But being patient and sticking with it, having the stomach for it is really probably the thing that has been the biggest shock to me starting my own business, because I can be impatient, and need to have those quick wins, but readdressing any kind of failure and going, no, it's not a failure, it's just it's a step closer to success. That's something that I've worked really hard on in the last few years to get my head around.
And it's such the idea of creativity and branding and design, it's a lot less tangible to sort of sell. You're not selling a car, you're not selling a house. So, I would imagine that could be potentially a bit more difficult to try and, put forward the idea of value and creating that value and appeal. And then to have that converted to, someone paying you money. So did you have anyone sort of help you out with that idea of, selling, I guess, creative services?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a strategist called Chelsea Weimer, and she's fantastic. And I guess she's really helped me with figuring out how to approach the strategy and formulate one. She has the business acumen probably that I don't quite have. So working with someone that can really, skill you up in those areas is definitely key. But I think too, there are so many platforms out there, and the idea of democratizing design is a big and current idea, and I think it's great that we do have those platforms. I think there's a place for them for sure. And small businesses, they need to have access to those sort of things. But really, I think having something that is as equally not just beautiful, but also says the right things with the right intention. It takes a designer, and it takes a lot more than just having the Adobe suite, or having Canva. It takes the strategy, and I think that's really been the thing that I realized the most. Looking beautiful, that is really easy to make things look beautiful, but have them mean something and resonate, that's a whole different ballgame.
Talk to me about the importance of branding for a business or company.
Yeah, well, I guess branding is the way that you present yourself, and who you are and why you exist. What sort of purpose, what is the purpose of your business? And your branding should reflect that in a visual way, and also with the tone of voice, the words, the tagline, those sort of things as well. So, for businesses to really mean something to the consumer, they need a brand identity, and that should constantly evolve. Like, as their products should evolve, so should their brand identity. Nothing's static. Everything needs to change. But I guess it comes back to strategy. I've kind of made a lot of mistakes in my own business, just being really eager and rushing into things, and it's really counterproductive. And it kind of, you sell yourself and your ideas short by not considering your next move. And I think, slowing down and just getting the strategy right. I mean, in today's world, it can be overwhelming, that sense of urgency to get things out in a fast pace, like content. We're just overwhelmed with all this content, but what's the point of that content? Like, it's just noise, right? Yeah. So, for me, brand identity is as much to do with why you exist as to what your logo and your font and your colors are.
Yep. I do like that the conversation slowly shifting, at least the idea of what is success for people. That's sort of shifting a little bit away from money to more freedom of time, and I guess happiness at the end of the day, which is exciting to witness.
Yeah, for sure.
So you touched on it a little bit earlier. I'm really intrigued about this question. It's one of my favorite questions. I have no idea where I heard it from. It might have been Tim Ferriss, may not have been. My video's just gone. It's fine. But what's one thing you wish you knew today, Alicia? What's one thing you wish you knew before starting your business that you know now?
Well, I think we sort of touched on that before. And, I think the biggest lesson for me has been, don't compare. There's a lot of social media in our personal lives, and there's a lot of flaunting, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. But professionally, there's equally just as many platforms doing that. And so, I think we've all been guilty of comparing, and nothing good comes of it. Yeah. We don't want to be the same as somebody else, so why would we compare ourselves? Just basically staying positive and having good mentors, and not feeling that need to compare in a world that collects likes is tough, but it's important not to do it.
Have you, does that come pretty sort of intuitively, naturally to yourself? Or do you have any sort of tips, strategies for when you catch yourself, falling into that line of thinking?
Yeah. No, look, I think it's something that I gave a lot of airtime to, and I think, when things get tough and maybe I'm feeling a bit, deflated because I expected a project to come off, or it's been shelved, or, it's gone to another agency or person, that's when I tend to do it. So I think it's really important to just take a beat when you're feeling like that. And for me, what I like to do is like to either go for a run or go for a walk or just get back to nature. I love skiing. Not that I skied when I was back in America, because it was too damn dangerous with COVID, to be honest. Nor did I have the time. I was working too hard. But I think, just taking a beat and focusing on the things that are actually important, which should be yourself and your family and your friends, rather than, comparing yourself with somebody else.
Yep. It's been said a million times by much smarter people than myself, but the idea of, and we sort of half touched on it in a few emails, but the idea of, how connected today's world is, and how disconnected that we all seem to feel. And even I had an interesting little thought myself. It was only a few weeks ago. I was feeling a bit down, and I was like, what's happening? What's going on? And I sort of realized that I was missing, or at least I haven't paid attention to the idea of, community, both with my family and friends and whatever else. So I sort of neglected that. And it was just interesting when I sort of made that connection of feeling a little off center, and realizing that I hadn't spent, I guess enough time with family and friends over the last couple of months. So that was an interesting little moment for myself.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a strange year last year, and I think a lot of people have reflected, and a lot of people have felt disconnected physically. But equally, I think it's given people the time and the space, perhaps, to reflect on things and just pay attention to things that matter. And I think we see that with consumers and culture, just buying behaviours and people really wanting to buy local, have less stuff, but more meaningful stuff. So that's a good thing.
Has there been, just on that, Alicia, has there been anything that you've noticed, whether it be yourself or whether it be just an observation of, people around you? Has there been any sort of shift in your own behaviour throughout, I guess, COVID, since that was, turned everyone's world upside down, as far as buying things online you didn't think you'd ever buy online, or anything else?
I guess for me, this is going to be contentious. I don't know what I should say this.
I love this. Get into it.
Yeah, look, I think we all love Amazon, but for me, I am trying to make a conscious effort to not buy on Amazon and to source from perhaps more local platforms, whether that's online or whether that's going into a local store. I think Jeff Bezos made an incredible amount of money last year. I don't know off the top of my head how much it was, but I think what we lost globally with GDP, 4 companies equally got the same amount. So, I want to stop supporting that. The only way I can do that is with my money. Not because I disagree with them. I think it's great, incredibly successful, but monopolies don't allow anyone else to operate by nature. That's what their strategy is, what they're there for. So for me, I focus on shopping more locally. And there's Poshmark. I kind of like Poshmark. It's a new, I don't know how new it is, new to me, new online platform, and they sell vintage things, and I'm very much into upcycling. So I like to go into the consignment store and get rid of the things that don't work for me anymore and pick up new things that do.
It. Amazon's such an interesting beast, eh? Like, has anyone had any discussions with you about how, especially when you're talking about local sort of businesses, or at least manufacturers, maybe? Like, I'm always curious as to what people's approach is with Amazon. Obviously, some people are like, I'll just list all my stuff on Amazon. Other people try and think about some sort of strategy where they can, use the audience of Amazon by building their brand and then trying to siphon off, customers, or at least earn customers through Amazon, and trying to get them to go straight to their website and buy direct. Has anyone ever spoken to you about any sort of intriguing strategies involving Amazon?
Well, no one has spoken to me directly, but I know from wanting to put Snow Sand hand sanitizer on Amazon, they're now, they obviously were not a B2B company, but they're very much investing in a B2B platform. Amazon Business is taking off. And what I noticed when we were trying to implement that strategy was it was incredibly difficult. Their search engine capabilities, functionality wasn't great unless, even when you searched under your name, you still get Purell come up, right. And you're like, well, hang on, I'm searching for Snow Sand hand sanitizer and we're on there. Why are we not coming up? Oh, okay. So unless you advertise and you know, through Amazon, then, you know, you don't get to the top of the food chain or the leaderboard with them. So well done, good on them. That's a good business strategy. Makes sense. Do I want to support it? Not so much.
Yep. And I think that's it's definitely a little movement in and of itself as well, sort of supporting local.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we won't dive down too much deeper on that one because we could get lost in that one. That's for sure, Alicia. But look, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but what sort of business support system or network have you got at the moment? Or do you have people that you sort of consistently get to lean on and ask for advice?
I mean, look, a lot of my friends are creative people, so obviously I go to my friends and speak to them. I rely on my clients as well. When I got back, I was fortunate enough to go back to Marie Claire and help them out and do some illustrations for them and help with a photo shoot and that sort of thing, which was great. So I definitely have a good support network with the people that I've worked with in the past. It's probably time as well to cast the net a bit wider in that sense and get some fresh perspective. When you work with people for a long time, you tend to know each other inside out and you get the same kind of advice over and over again.
Yeah.
And, so it's interesting doing things like this and speaking to you, but probably have to tap into LinkedIn a little bit more. I think you mentioned that to me as it being a great space to network and probably somewhere that I could spend a little bit more time.
I think for me, the appeal of LinkedIn is nothing more than the organic reach that it provides at the moment. But you bang on, it's got a lot of decision makers on there, all that sort of stuff. It's a real interesting place. I'm intrigued with the idea of sort of, I guess, networking and getting involved in groups, whether that be local groups catching up or even Facebook groups. I haven't really done a lot of that stuff. It's been highly recommended, but I haven't really ventured down. COVID's played a part, of course, but moving forward, I'm actually quite excited to get involved in some networking and groups or that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, I definitely probably need to hear. There's a lot of, female women in business support communities out there that I could tap into. And I'm probably, now that I'm back in Australia and have a bit of a moment to breathe, and we're definitely going to tap that sort of thing up and try and get involved a little bit more on that aspect of things.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the internet's terrible here. You were talking before about Bali having greater Wi-Fi. I think I might get a VPN and tap into Bali's Wi-Fi. But I don't know what's happened. We'll be all right. But interesting you said that. I spoke with myself and a mate of mine, Jason, spoke with a lovely woman by the name of Shay. She is a confidence and clarity coach based in Ireland. It's an entirely different story. Shout out to Shay. I know she's watching. But she was saying that she was involved in a lot of groups, predominantly for women, obviously all women groups. And she got her current business mentor from the group, I believe it was called Boss Babes, which was a really cool sort of name. But it ties into the idea of, women empowerment, and it's definitely a much greater time, I guess, to be a woman up and coming. I can only assume. But, even the idea of women helping women, I think there can be a lot more of that. It's still pretty disappointing, even from watching afar, whenever you sort of see unnecessary sort of drama, in and around your standard workplace. I just don't see the sense of it. But anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's a few things that I follow on LinkedIn, and I always find it interesting, when they post how amazing particular woman has been, Michelle Obama is definitely someone that I think is absolutely incredible. And then I find it strange that people have this urgency to chime in and go, but what about all the great men? And, and it's like, oh, wowzers, really? Okay, we're not taking away from them, but we're just taking a beat to say how fantastic this particular, female has been as a role model. So, we've got a long way to go, but definitely now is a great time to be a woman in business because there's just so many platforms that support it.
One of my favorite ones that I saw, and I think it was actually Ricky Gervais that called it out. I love Ricky, but it was a post for, Happy International Women's Day, and some gentleman, I'll restrain there, but some gentleman put, well, why don't we have an International Men's Day? Of course we do. So well done, son. But it's all I can suggest is that tomorrow will be better than today, and I think we're slowly moving in the right direction. And any sort of, I guess, social revolution, it'll probably move the same pace as any sort of evolution, unfortunately. But as long as we slowly move in the right direction, that's a win.
Yeah, I do love Ricky Gervais as well. I don't know if you've seen Humanity. I think it's called Humanity Stand Up. It's on Netflix. Oh my gosh, it's just so clever.
What was your favorite takeaway of I think you bang on humanity.
For me, definitely it was people taking their something that offended them, and taking what someone says as a personal attack on something that they find offensive. And it's like, really, this has got nothing to do with you. This, it's just, I guess it comes back to that whole needing to compare. And, when we feel like we have to compare, then we can't acknowledge someone's greatness without comparing, well, what about Men's Day? It's the whole thing of offense, when someone says something funny and it's taking a bit of a jibe at somebody and they're like, well, that really offends me, and it's like, well, hang on a second. That the intention is not your offense. It's bigger than that.
Yeah. We're an intriguing sort of bunch, aren't we? But I really like another dude, and this is, I don't know how to deliver this without offending some people. That's fine. There's a guy by the name of Anthony Jeselnik who is wildly controversial, but I just appreciate his real clever, dark humor. But he come out and I guess felt the need to explain one of his jokes, which was very, very polarizing. It was, I won't kind of say, actually stuff it, let's do it. It was about the Boston bombings in America a decade ago, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think the line that he put on Twitter was some lines are just not meant to be crossed or something, which, as you can appreciate, was just, oh, goodness gracious. But he come out later and actually explained it. He said, the reason I said that is because it wasn't meant to be offensive for the victims of the day, because the victims are off doing things that victims had to do. They weren't on social media. He said the only people on social media were the ones saying thoughts and prayers for the Boston victims. And he said, and what they're really saying is, don't forget about me. I feel sad. Don't forget about me. He goes, so that was the angle and why he sort of did it. And again, I don't sort of agree with that 100%, but I can sort of see it. And I thought it was a really interesting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I try not to take offense to things that I don't agree with, because often the person's intention is not to offend. And if I just focus on that, then it makes it a lot more easy to not get upset.
I like it. I didn't ask you this pre-show, but what's been your favorite country that you've been to?
Been to or lived in?
Let's go been to, because I think that'll
Yeah, okay. Well, when I lived in London, we did a hell of a lot of traveling. Not nearly enough, though. It's an incredibly diverse place. But I actually really love America, and I think I have a warped sense of what America is because I lived in two places, San Francisco and Boulder, and they're both incredibly progressive and health focused. So Boulder is probably my favorite place on earth.
Wow.
It's very
Nice.
special. People are incredibly happy. You know, when you're at the supermarket and someone asks you, oh, you know, the guy checking you out is like, oh, what are you making for dinner? He actually really wants to know what you're making for dinner. And I remember last time I was there and I was rushing and I forgot I was in America because I just landed. And I was looking the wrong way, you know, walking out onto the road. This is a 4-lane road, right? 4-lane. And there was like a pedestrian crossing, you know, 50 meters away. And did I go? No, I did not. You know what everybody did? Everybody stopped. Both sides stopped. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm like, sorry. No one beeped. They were like, yeah, she screwed up, but what am I going to do? Am I going to beep it? Not going to change it. She's on the freaking road anyway. Wow. So I was like, yeah, you know, and that's, I guess, the sort of mentality that I like. I think Australians quite like to, you know, they like to school. They love to school people, and often there's no point because people usually know when they've made a mistake. They don't need to be called out by you.
Fair enough. There you go. I had 2.5 years. I always say 3. I love that. I had 3 years in the UK. It was 2.5. But we sort of rushed back to Australia pretty quickly. So in hindsight, because people always ask, you know, did you get to do heaps of stuff and whatever else? Because we come home pretty quick, you know, we did a lot of stuff anyway. I guess the point I'm dancing around is if I knew I was only going to be there for 2.5 years, we would have done more stuff. But the best thing about living in, we're in Kent, so just southeast of London, was the fact that Europe was just on the bloody doorstep. That was my favorite part.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad on a Friday night when you can jump on the Eurostar and have dinner in Paris.
Not the worst thing. I love Spain. I absolutely adore Spain. I could live there. Just the weather, but anyway. I got a question for you. What's the finish line sort of look like for you, Alicia? Like what does sort of the ultimate success look like?
Well, finish line that scares me a lot because I don't ever want to finish.
Love that.
But what does the ultimate success look like? I don't think about success in terms of winning a client or doing the perfect job or, you know, having enough money that I don't have to work. I really think success is got to be when I feel really happy about every day and what I'm contributing every day. And it's something that you've got to work at, you know, constantly work at being satisfied professionally and personally. So that's my ultimate goal, and I'm still chipping away.
That's unreal. What is your favorite part of what you do? What's your favorite part of being creative?
I'm quite task orientated, and I can get quite agitated when I don't feel like things are progressing. So my favorite part definitely is when there's a moment where you know that you've nailed it, right? And I love that, where it's like, oh, I've been working this whole week and that's not working. And then there's a moment where you go, oh my God, I've done it, you know. And it's so funny because, you know, you think that it's hours spent, like, oh, if I spend 40 hours doing it, I'll get it right. And sometimes it comes really quickly, and sometimes, you know, you're forcing it and it's not happening. But for me, it's definitely not a scale of time that makes me happy. It's knowing when I've done it, and it can come really fast or it can come really slowly. But either way, I love it when it finally happens.
That's unreal. So your day-to-day, you mentioned time management, task management rather. Mine is a bloody mess. Daily, it's terrible. It's something I'm working on. But have you got any sort of, I guess, tips for someone that's wildly just terrible at it like myself?
Look, I'm incredibly organized, and I think I kind of work at warp speed, and that can have its downsides as well. For me, I just find like having that routine in the morning where, sometimes I get out of bed at like 6 a.m. I get on my phone, I look at it, oh my God, shit, someone in the States needed something. Oh, they've been waiting for hours. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then I just like literally get on the tools and start bashing away. By lunchtime, I'm screwed and just not working. Whereas if I just took that hour in the morning to take the dog for a walk or to go for a jog or whatever it is, and often that's kind of like my time where I start thinking and planning my day and figuring out my attack on things. So I think sometimes rushing can be counterproductive, and I definitely fall into that trap sometimes when I'm overwhelmed. But taking a beat to figure it out and then starting and attacking is what I try to do every day. I don't get it right every day, but I try.
One thing I've learned to do is just not beat myself up when you sort of miss the mark, and if your day's sort of shot or your week's just a mess, just going, all right, sweet, just kind of breathing and waking up the next day and having another crack and seeing how you go.
Well, that's really all you can do is just kind of. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely given too much headspace to getting frustrated about things not going right, and it's just so counterproductive. So being kind to yourself and going, oh, well, whatever, it's just a day. Like, let's not water off a duck's back. Let's try again.
Yeah, nice.
That's a good way to go.
What's I like it. What's what is some of your favorite tools that you kind of hit up on the daily there, Alicia?
Oh, my slow cooker is definitely my favorite in the world.
Nice.
And anyone that knows me, you're like, what? She works at what speed? Why would she like a slow cooker? I like my slow cooker because I'm so organized. I've got dinner done by 7, and the slow cooker is very, very forgiving. You can put anything into that puppy, and 8 hours later, perfect.
What's your I've got a slow cooker, and I'm not a whiz in the kitchen with any stretch of imagination, so that might be my go-to. What's you got a signature dish?
My signature dish, probably I do this chicken with mushroom and bacon dish, and it's like a stroganoff, I suppose, but made with chicken. That's my go-to.
Nice. Love that. I've got a couple of other questions, and I might let you crack on into the evening. But first things first, is there anything that we've missed that you want to sort of shine a spotlight on?
Oh, I mean, I think it's been great. I don't know. I mean, I think we've gone off topic and then come back on. I don't know what we haven't spoken about tonight. Gosh.
Your plant in the background there, Alicia, is that I've got to ask, is it real or is it fake?
It's fake. Come on now, I don't have time to water plants. No, I love plants, but this one is fake. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It looks amazing. So yeah, well done. I need to get a few fake ones. I think we've got a lemon tree up front, but anyway.
Again,
so yeah, I like it. What's this is, I think, one of the last ones I sort of missed. I apologize, but what are your sort of favorite books, any favorite podcasts that come to mind?
I mean, look, yeah, I guess I kind of professionally, look, I really like the David and Goliath story. I'm not particularly religious at all, but I do like that story, and I think I like it because I'm an Aussie. We love the underdog, but
100%.
B, it's it just reminds me, like, speed and agility beats size. Like technology, you got to live on the cutting edge. I used to get pretty annoyed when people would underestimate me. And now I'm like, that gives me a competitive advantage, like disrupt the status quo. That can be a really, really good one. And precision. Precision matters. You got to get your strategy and you got to be really accurate. Yeah.
Do people miss that as far as the idea of strategy? Do people sort of, I guess, forget to raise the gaze, as Chris Hogan said? But do people sort of miss that sometimes? Do you feel?
Definitely, definitely when I've had clients come to me that haven't had a strategy, a business strategy, it's been a lot of wheel spinning. And you can't make them happy because they really don't know where they're going and what they're doing. And, that's a lose-lose. So, and for me, I've sort of gone a million miles an hour in a direction and not really thought things through, and it's got me absolutely nowhere. But, just taking the time to figure out your strategy. And then when things do go wrong, and they do, you can at least go back to your strategy and sort of kind of pinpoint exactly where it fell down, tweak it a little bit, rather than the scattergun approach and just going off in a completely different direction. So yeah, strategy is probably the number one thing for any business to get right before they implement or do anything.
Love that. I got a real random one for you. So this just came to mind here. It might miss completely, but we'll give it a shot. Without going into sort of details, and if you want to withhold names and all that sort of stuff, but who would you say is the happiest person that you know?
Other than my dog. It's not a person, so hang on, that doesn't work. Who is the happiest person I know? Oh, geez, that's a tough one. Look, I actually want to say not that my eldest son isn't super happy, because he is super happy, but my youngest son is such a happy little guy. And I just love the way he takes the time to enjoy things. Like, he loves his things and he like makes it right. And, and I love to see that enjoyment. Anyone enjoy anything like that is incredibly inspiring. So I'm definitely inspired by my kids, but Ziggy Moodley is pretty happy. He's a pretty happy guy.
That's awesome. All right, Alicia, look, I want to thank you. You've been an absolute star. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. I guess for those business owners and decision makers watching at the moment, or at least we're watching the show afterwards, how can you best help their business? Let's start there.
Well, we have to have a conversation.
Yeah, true.
Definitely have to have a conversation and find out what their pain points are and what it is that they want to achieve, to see whether I would be the right fit for them. That's incredibly important. My intention is to help any business grow, and then I would become part of the business rather than just a transactional exchange of services. I think, the best professional relationships are collaborative. And yeah, if there's someone out there that would like help or just want to have a chat about creative, give me a call and we'll see whether it can work for both of us, because that's ultimately what I want the most, is I want it to work for everybody.
Love that. And where is the best place for people to sort of reach out and connect with you?
Yeah. So, juniormassive.com, you can definitely reach out on the contact page through that. And then there's an email, alicia@juniormassive.com. And then, of course, I'm on LinkedIn as well. So Alicia Moodley. There is a plethora of places. Also, Instagram, loads of spots. So all the usual suspects will be there.
Love that. And plethora is one of my favorite words as well. So what a way to round out the show. Alicia, thank you again. You're an absolute star. Ladies and gents, do yourself a favor. Go and hit her up on LinkedIn. Look at juniormassive.com as well. Bring her in and she'll do wonders for your business. Alicia, enjoy the rest of your night. Ladies and gents, we'll see you next Thursday.
Thanks. Bye.